In this video, you're going to see shots of players playing the game. With one big exception, none of them are cheaters that I'm aware of. I'm sure they are lovely human beings. I'm not implying that they're cheaters by including them in this video. I just wanted to have nice footage of people playing Magic the Gathering while I talk. Hello and welcome to FDS. My name is Nate and I'm your host. Today we are talking about cheaters. Yes, we're going into the holiday season and I thought that was a fantastic time to talk about cheating. Now there are two scenarios that I'm going to cover where you may run into cheaters. The first is the at-home group, where you play with your friends at home or their house or at an LGS, but the opponent you know outside of Magic. And the other scenario is playing at a local game store or even at a larger event in an official tournament where you don't know your opponent, and in some cases you may never have met them before, and after the game you may never meet them again. The friend group, you probably will have an easier time catching a cheater because you play with them all the time. They usually play the same decks, you know how their decks work, so you can see if something shady is going on fairly easily. But with the LGS or at a larger event, that may be harder to see, especially if the player is playing a deck you're not familiar with or they are a better player than you. It is possible that you may second guess yourself and believing that you saw what you saw. But here are a couple tips that I have about dealing with cheaters. Tip number one, if you think you see somebody cheating, call it out. I know that can be intimidating because you may worry that you misunderstood the situation or you didn't really see what you saw and you don't want to cause a fuss. And you may want to avoid the potential conflict calling out something like that may cause. But there are ways you can call out something like that without causing conflict. What I like to do is basically be myself and play dumb. I ask that they explain the board state and how it got that way because I might have missed something. And that does a couple of things. It brings up the issue in a non-threatening way, and it gives them an opportunity to explain themselves so you can get a better understanding of what happened. With your friend group, this may be easier or harder depending on your dynamic with your friend group, but call it out. Even if it's your best friend, point it out and say, hey, explain that to me. How did that happen? And again, you can do it in a non-threatening way. Maybe it was a simple mistake, but you won't know that unless you call it out. This is difficult in that you don't want to be calling out everything they do. You don't want to be approaching this like you're paranoid, like everybody's out to get you and out to cheat. But you also don't want to let them get away with something that you're pretty sure they shouldn't have done. But it really comes down to your gut. If you're pretty sure that they did something that they shouldn't have done, well then ask questions. Tip number two, cheaters, especially those who are good at cheating, are very confident. You have to be if you are going to cheat and expect to get away with it. And that can be surprising to some people when they confront a cheater about something they just did. You get complete confidence, so much so that it can get you to second guess what you saw. In fact, that's the whole goal. They want to seem so confident in what they did and that what they did was okay that you'll find yourself second guessing what you saw. I'll use the example of the infamous Alex Bertoncini and the Two Explorers game. I'll have a link in the description down below to a Nikachu MTG video where he goes into much more detail on what happened in that game. But essentially, Alex gets an extra land drop on turn 3. Well, the person recording the game saw it play out and interrupted the match to call it out. Alex responds with utter confidence. In fact, to the question, what turn is it? His response was, Two Explorers, which that's not a valid answer to that question. That's like asking, where are you going for dinner? Carburetor. As the spectator was continuing the questioning, Alex's opponent tells the person it's okay, he's fine. So his opponent defends him. Now, I'm not picking on his opponent. In fact, I probably would have done the very same thing if I were in his shoes. You get to a place where you think, they didn't cheat, just be aware that if the person you're playing with actually cheated and you call them on it, you might not get the reaction you expect. It'll probably be a very confident response that will try to convince you that everything is fine. And that's why you do tip number 3, and that's call a judge. Even if that response that opponent gave you is so convincing that you're sure they didn't cheat, still call a judge because you had the gut feeling at first. Maybe I should call this out. It's important that you do so. Now, this is probably the hardest tip because you're now taking the potential conflict from between you and your opponent and bringing in a third party. But that's important because the third party is neutral and they know a lot more about Magic probably than both of you and your opponent. So they're able to review the scenario and make a judgment call. because they're a judge. They should be fine with getting a judge. And don't feel guilty about it, because there's nothing to feel guilty about. You misunderstood the situation, you asked for clarification, and you just want to check with the judge to make sure that what you're understanding is correct or what happened was okay to happen. Like most of you, I don't have a judge hiding in my closet, so you probably can't do that with your friend group at home. To translate this tip to that scenario, I would say if the cheating continues, if calling them out doesn't yield results, and you keep catching them, then there does come a breaking point where you either need to say you stop cheating or you leave, or you yourself as a player decide, do I really want to continue playing with these people who accept cheating as okay? Probably just as hard, if not harder, than having to call a judge is to decide whether or not you want to keep playing with these people who cheat. But it's important for your enjoyment of the game, because cheating isn't fun. The only person who potentially has fun with cheating is the cheater. And I think it goes without saying, I'm not even calling it a tip, don't cheat. If you think of cheating, don't do it. Put your effort and time into playing the game better than cheating. Now, I do have a couple of bonus tips. The first one is always shuffle the deck that your opponent presents and shuffle it. Don't just cut it. And make sure you get the top of the deck and the bottom of the deck into that shuffle. There are certain cheats that can happen prior to the game where an opponent can preset their deck and then shuffle it in a certain way so that way it gets back to that original order that they did before they started shuffling. It's actually not that hard to do if you know what you're doing, but you just taking the deck and shuffling it eliminates that as a problem. And if your opponent refuses to present their deck to be shuffled, call a judge. I will throw a caveat in here. I don't know if there are any rules that surround COVID that may affect this tip, so just be aware if there might be some rules changes there. And my other bonus tip to deal with cheaters is click on that. That's really not a video about cheaters at all, considering this is the only video I have on cheating. It's just another video that you might find helpful and entertaining. Like and subscribe. This show is part of the CIP network, inspiring creativity, one episode at a time.